It's great. That's it. This is gonna be like the worst video because it's like this is a video where I'd have to explain why I love these books, and it's just gonna turn into me going, just do it, just read it. Like, I can't even describe. That's your whole job, bitch. That's your whole job.
Hi, says the girl with the right eyes that pairs pretty well when she hits you with the soft smile.
Hi friends, it's Rory, and today is a refilm of a video that I filmed already. So this is where I'm gonna very briefly talk about the books I didn't like in 2020, and then talk about my 10 favorite books of 2020. I already filmed this video, but the last time I filmed it was when every single person in my apartment was here, and there was just actually so much noise that the video is just unsavable, like unusable. Like, you can hear clear conversations in the background while I'm saying things. So right now, technically my entire household is here, but everyone's asleep. So we're gonna try to bang this out before everyone wakes up, because my house does not understand what quiet is when we're awake, and that includes me. I'm not being like better than everyone else. I'm just saying we're all loud as fuck. So let's go ahead and try to finish this. So I read 69 nice books in the year, and actually I did pretty well because I only disliked 4 of them, really, and it was hard to make my top 10 list. So I actually had a whole section where I talk about my least faves of 2020, but that made this video like so fucking long, so I decided to cut that bit out. I'm listing on the screen my 4 least favorite books of 2020. If you would like to know more about why specifically I didn't like them, you can just ask me in the comments and I'll let you know. Most of them were just because I didn't like the characters, or the plot felt outside the realm of like believability, or there were just like too many plot points, or in the case of The School for Good and Evil, every character was awful and I hated every single one of them. Although I may watch the School for Good and Evil movie that's coming out on Netflix. Let me know if you would like that. Okay, so that's done. We're done talking about negative things. Let's go ahead and talk about things I like. My 10 favorite books of 2020, and I'm so excited to talk about it. This one was so hard because I read so many banger books, and I would like to think that it's because I know my own taste, or maybe I'm just really easy to please. But the books that I read this year were so stinking good, and I absolutely adore them. So let's go ahead and start gushing. Once again, I'm gonna start with 10. I'm gonna finish at 1. So I'm gonna finish with my number 1 book of this year. Number 10, Foolish Hearts by Emma Mills. I love this book. This is a book that I read at the very beginning of the year. Like, I think this was the 3rd book that I read in the year. I read it for a readathon. But I read it for that, and I absolutely adored it. Foolish Hearts is about a girl named Claudia, and she goes to an all-girls school. And one day during the summer, she unfortunately hears the breakup of 2 girls who are the most popular, couple at their school. One of them, Iris, when they find out that she's heard the breakup, gets so mad that she decides that she's going to ruin Claudia's life. And so they get assigned to a project together, and then Iris just ruins it. And so the teacher decides, as punishment and also as a way to make up their grade, that they have to help with the school play, which is a Midsummer Night Dream that they're putting on with their brother school, the all-boys school, basically across like a small field. And so the 2 of them, start to become friends, and they connect on like a mutual love of a band, and they end up being great friends. And along with that, Claudia is dealing with some family things, and also she is starting to kind of get a crush on one of the boys who are also in the musical. Midsummer Night Dream is not a musical. So you know how there are books where it's like all about the romance, and like that's what you really want, like you're really invested in the romance. I'm invested in this book for the friendships. The friendships in this book make my heart so happy. I love me a good friendship book. Friendship books are in some ways better than romance books. I said what I said. Now, specifically, the friendships in this book make my heart feel so happy. I absolutely love Claudia and Iris's like enemies to like best friends type thing because it feels earned. Like you slowly see them like cool off from each other. Specifically, there's a part where Iris is having issues because she is she gets the part of like the attendant to the main fairy. I'm not very familiar with Midsummer Night Dream. Claudia, who did not get put in the play because she's a bad actor, but she knows Shakespeare really, really well, is like helping her through. And then their friendship over the band, or it's like a boy band, like I don't know if it was supposed to be like BTS, but that's what I was thinking of when I was reading it. Like it seemed very BTS-esque. It's just absolutely adorable and it's so freaking cute and I love them. I love their friendship. It's 100% my favorite thing. Absolutely. Along with that, like, cannot believe I'm about to say this. This book made me care about a straight man. His name is Gideon, and I love that boy. He is the embodiment of a golden retriever. And also, his friendship with his best friend is also so good. Like, this book is so good when it comes to friendships. Like, I'm telling you, read it. It's really, really cute. Is it the best book that has ever been written? No. Is it the best book that you're ever gonna read? Probably not. But is it a great friendship book? Yes, and I love it for that reason specifically. Okay, up next. The fact that this book is so low on this list just goes to show how much I loved books this year. Like this, any other year this book would have been #1, but it's #9 on this list. And I fucking love it still. #9 is Cemetery Boys by Aiden Thomas. First of all, I have a reading vlog for this book if you would like to check that out. In addition to that, if you haven't read the book but you'd still like to know more in depth on my feelings on the book, I have a non-spoiler review as well. I'll go ahead and link both of those up in the card. So if you are somehow under a rock and didn't know what Cemetery Boys was, it is the story of Yadriel, who is a trans boy in a family of witches, and in his family, boys are you know, they help guide souls on and sometimes have to sever the connection to a soul if they become corrupted, and girls heal things using blood. But because Yadriel is trans, his family has not allowed him to go through the ritual to become a full member of the family, and he is upset about that, and so he decides, fuck it, I'm gonna do it on my own, along with his cousin who is vegan, and so she refuses to heal, so they're kind of like both outcasts. And he goes ahead and he does the ritual, and then his cousin is killed. He's going to try to bring his cousin's soul back so they can figure out who murdered him. And then he accidentally brings back the soul of a boy from school. His name is Julian, and Julian basically says, you know, you can't break my connection until you help me, you know, settle what I need to settle. I need to know that my friends are okay. And so him and his cousin both help out Julian, and along the way, Julian and Yadriel fall in love. And the relationship is so cute, first of all, but also I would absolutely die for Julian Diaz. I adore that man. Oh, he's so great. I absolutely love him so much. Literally the only bad thing that I can say about this book is that it's a little bit predictable, but I didn't even care. Like, I guessed what was gonna happen, but it wasn't so much about the plot twist as it was about the journey to get there. The writing in this book is so beautiful. I can't wait. I cannot wait for Aiden Thomas's next book to come out. I absolutely adore this book. And once again, the fact that it's #9. #8 is You Should See Me in a Crown by Leah Johnson. the way I love this book. I absolutely adore it. So, You Should See Me in a Crown is about Liz, who is a senior in high school in Indiana, and her plan is to go to a specific college to become a doctor and play in their orchestra, which is like world famous. But then she doesn't get into the orchestra, and so her financial aid is falling through, and she decides that she's going to run for prom queen at her school. It's like the biggest thing in this town, like everyone cares about prom, and like it's very competitive. But the winner of Prom King and Queen both get a $10,000 scholarship, and so that is enough to at least get her to the point where she can try out for the orchestra again. Unfortunately, she is not popular, and so it's kind of like an uphill struggle. She's also faced with having to kind of like deal with a boy who used to be her friend, and they had a bit of a falling out, and there's still kind of like weird feelings on that. But also she ends up falling for another prom queen contestant named Mac. There's a reason I love this book so much, and it's because it reminds me so much of the Prom musical. I absolutely love that show, and this book reminds me so much of it. Like, there's even a line where she says, "Don't be gay in Indiana," and I just immaculate. Liz as a character is really high-key relatable, and her relationship with Mac is great, but also her friendship, but specifically her friendship with the boy who they kind of like grew apart, makes my heart warm. Like the way that they, you know, grow back together, and like love it. Mwah. Absolutely insane. The romance is cute. The writing is fantastic. Number 7 is 9/10, a 9/11 story by Nora Rayleigh Baskin. Let me first explain what this book about, and then I'll explain like why I love this book so much. This is about 4 young kids. I think they're in middle school or like just about to start high school. I'm pretty sure it's middle school though. And on the 9th of September in 2001, they are all at the same airport, and their paths cross, but they don't realize it. And then it follows them for the next 2 days up into when 9/11 occurs. There is Sergio, who lives in Brooklyn and is dealing with feelings about his father, who kind of has abandoned him and he kind of hates him. There's Will, who was in the airport because they just got back from Disney World because their town saved money for their family after his father was killed in a car accident, and he's still kind of like dealing with that grief. There's Nadira, who is Muslim, and she's never really felt any kind of like anxiety about being Muslim, but she's going to a new school, and people have started to like give her weird looks and make mean comments about her headdress, and so she's kind of like questioning that. And then there is Amy, who is starting a new school in California, and her mother is a banking person who is not even there for her first couple of days of school because she's in New York on business. Guess where she does business? In the World Trade Center. And it kind of like follows them from the 9th to September 11th and kind of like goes through each of their individual stories and how they personally are connected to the tragedy that happens. Before I talk about how much I absolutely love this book, I need to set the state, like set where my emotions are coming from when it comes to this book specifically. March or April, we are in early quarantine. We're going insane, and Animal Crossing just came out. I desperately want to buy a Nintendo Switch. They're sold out everywhere. But I was able to get one at a Walmart in Jacksonville, which is a 2-hour drive away from me. So I buy it online, Target.com, set for pickup, early morning. I wake up so early and I drive to Jacksonville, grab the Switch that I had purchased and drive back, and on that drive I listened to the audiobook and I cried on I-4. Probably not the safest thing to do. I definitely don't recommend it, but I cried on I-4 because of this book. It's so good. Similarly to how You Should See Me in a Crown reminds me of The Prom, which is a musical I absolutely love, this book reminds me so much of my favorite Broadway musical of all time, which is Come From Away. If you haven't like listened to Come From Away or watched it like of Come From Away, I highly recommend it. It is my favorite story. It is my favorite show of all time. When I saw it in Orlando, this book reminds me so much of it because similarly to that show, this book gives so much hope. Gross. And just like the way that you come to care about these characters and you care about these struggles, and like they may seem small, like Amy is going to a new school and she just feels really alone because, you know, she doesn't feel like she fits in because she's at a new school. They're really, really relatable. The audiobook is only like 4 hours long. And it's really, really good. And you can get it on Scribd for, if you have, you know, the Scribd membership. I highly recommend it. You guys really, really should read this book. Number 6, Tunnel of Bones by Victoria Schwab, which is the second book in the Cassidy Blake series. The Cassidy Blake series is about a girl, Cassidy, who about a year ago almost drowned. Ever since then, she has been able to see ghosts. And her family are kind of like paranormal enthusiasts. So one of her parents is a historian and the other one is like a paranormal kind of like, not investigator, but like a paranormal scholar. And the two of them get offered a television show, and they are going to go from city to city in Europe talking about like historical things and ghost things and kind of bringing it all together, kind of like a BuzzFeed Unsolved but smarter. And Cassidy is going with them, and along the way in the first book she learned that she has to help send ghosts to the beyond, basically like Ghost Whisperers if you've ever seen that show. And I love this book. This is the second one, like I said, and it's gonna be a series. The third one comes out either this year or the year after, and it is so good. The series is so good. I absolutely adore it. It's a middle grade book. It's such a fun series to grow up with. I imagine, like, obviously I'm an adult and I'm just saying this from what I remember of being a kid, but it seems like such a fun series to grow up with. It's another one that I'm gonna recommend to my niece as soon as I feel like, you know, she's at the reading level where this is appropriate, and I love it. Along with that, Cassidy and Jacob, who is her best friend who is a ghost in the story, their relationship is so funny. Like the way that they interact, they're what is the word I'm looking for? Banter. Their banter is just so funny and I absolutely adore them. Oh, they're so good. Victoria Schwab is a great writer, and like her books are great, and it's really good. I cannot put into words how great this series is. Up next, To Kill a Kingdom by Alexandra Christo. I called this in my January wrap-up. I said, I can guarantee you now this is going to be on my wrap-up for like my favorite books of the year list, and bitch, it was. Hi. So To Kill a Kingdom is basically a Little Mermaid retelling. In this, the main character, Lyra, is a siren, and sirens steal people's hearts once a year. And she has decided that she is going to only steal the heart of princes. At the beginning of the book, she's helping her cousin. It is her first hunt, and Lyra, as someone who has done this for nearly 18 years, decides that she is going to continue to help her, and she takes a heart that she shouldn't of a prince there. And her mother, who is the sea witch, she decides to punish her by 1, destroying the heart that she got, and 2, banning her from getting a prince's heart. She has to get a heart of a regular person. But Lyra is just like, nah, that's not me. I'm literally referred to as the prince's bane. I'm gonna get the heart of the most deadly prince, so that she will, 1, let me keep the heart, and 2, be proud of me. And that is the heart of Prince Elion, who is a siren hunter. He doesn't really want to be a prince. He and his friends sail across the sea and hunt sirens. So she tries to steal his heart, and through some means ends up failing. And so as punishment, Lyra's mother turns her into a human and says, you have to get his heart, but you can't have any of your siren powers. You have to do it while you're human. And so Lyra joins the crew of his ship, and they end up falling in love. And it is the enemies to lovers in this book makes me, it's the best. Like, it is the best enemies to lovers relationship that I have ever had the pleasure of reading about. It makes me so happy. There is legitimately a part, he's just like, you know, if you were my wife, I would poison you. And she's like, if I was your wife, I would drink it. And my soul left my body. Oh my God. It's the type of relationship similar to Howl's Moving Castle, if you've read Howl's Moving Castle, where it's just like suddenly they realize they're in love with each other, and both of them are just like, motherfucker, this is so inconvenient. I hate this, which is one of my favorite types of relationship dynamic, where it's legitimately just like, it's just inconvenient for me to be in love with you. I really, really hate that that's happening for me, but damn, do I love you. And I absolutely adore this book. Read it. Highly recommend. It's really dark in some places, but also the writing is beautiful. Absolutely 100%, like, gorgeous writing. Anyways, I highly recommend. Oh my gosh, we get to talk about my favorite graphic novel ever. So number 4 on this list is On a Sunbeam by Tilly Walden, who I have absolutely grown to love this year. I actually am borrowing another Tilly Walden graphic novel from my library at this moment. So On a Sunbeam is the story of Maya, and it's kind of told in 2 different time periods. So there's the current time period where Maya has just joined a crew of people who refurbish historical sites so that they can be turned into like community centers, and it's a found family type of thing. Like, the crew is family, and the found family in this, it's 100%. And then it flashes back to a year in boarding school where she met a girl and they fell in love, and you find out that the connection between those 2 years in the story, and it's spacey. Like, it literally happens in space. It's beautiful. It's absolutely stunning. The art in this is 10 out of 10. Absolutely gorgeous. The way that some of these like art scenes like live in my mind rent free. The relationship between Maya and the girl that she loves is so cute, but the reason I love this book so much is 100% the found family. The members of the crew that she joins are all 10 out of 10s, but specifically there's one crew member and I am absolutely in love with them. Like, they are 100%, they don't, for the majority of it, they don't speak, and they somehow they spoke 0 words and I fell head over heels in love with them. Like, it's sad, honestly, how much I really I love them. It's so good. I borrowed it from my library and I'm on the hunt for a decently priced hardcover version. If you can borrow it from your library, I highly recommend it. It is such a beautiful story and 100% my favorite graphic novel of all time. Number 3 is Clap When You Land by Elizabeth Acevedo. Hi, is anyone surprised that Elizabeth Acevedo is on this list? Because if you know me, you shouldn't. I have read every single one of Elizabeth Acevedo's books, and all of them have been 5 stars. Wait a minute, have I been mispronouncing her name this entire time? That's so embarrassing. Oh my gosh, why did no one tell me? Oh my god, okay. Apparently it's pronounced Acevedo instead of Acevedo. So, Clap When You Land is the story of 2 sisters who have no idea that the other exists. You have Yahida, who lives in New York, and then you have Camino, who lives in the Dominican Republic. And they have no idea that the 2 of them exist. All they know is that Yahida knows that her father goes to DR for the summer every year, and Camino knows that her father will visit her every summer, and that's it. They don't know anything about the other. And then on one of the trips to DR, his plane crashes and kills everyone on board. And so the book is about the mourning that the 2 sisters are going through, like their own separate mourning. And then it becomes about them finding out about each other and kind of coming to the point where they meet. Along with that, each of them is going through their own separate struggles. I just love this book so much. Like the only criticism I have on this book isn't even about the book itself, it's about the audiobook. I only listened to Elizabeth Acevedo. I still can't believe that I was mispronouncing it this entire time. I only listened to her books via audiobook. It's because they're all written in verse, and I'm not the best when it comes to myself reading verse books, so I prefer to listen to the audiobook. And the only complaint I have is that there are 2 narrators for both of the sisters, and they sound a little bit too similar. So if like you lose track of what's going on, it can be a little bit difficult to figure out which sister you're coming from. And that's nothing to do with the book, that's just the audiobook itself. But I did want to mention that because it was an issue that I had. But yeah, I absolutely adore this book. Please read it. It's so good. Oh no, my roommates, they're waking up. I have 2 books left. We've got to finish. The way that I absolutely love this book so much. My number 2 favorite book is This Is How You Lose the Time War by Amal L. Monterre and Max Gladstone. This is one of my favorite books I've ever read. I adore this book so much. I was not expecting it. And the way that this book lives rent-free in my mind, beachside property, like I think about this book constantly. So if you don't know what this book is about, it is the story of 2 women who are on different sides of a time war. So both of their species will go back and forth between different timelines and change key events to make it so that their species wins out in the end. And they're trying to win all of the timelines. And these 2 agents are like one of the best agents on their side of the war specifically, and they start to write letters back and forth to each other, you know, teasing each other that their side is going to lose, but slowly over time they start to fall in love. I love this book so much that I've actually cosplayed as both Red and Blue. I'll insert some clips or pictures or whatever. There are quotes of this book that I want tattooed on myself. There are quotes that live rent-free in my brain. There are quotes that I think about constantly. I am in a constant wish to reread this book. Like I may reread it this month just because. I borrowed it from the library, read through, I finished this book, and for an hour I just laid on my bed staring at the ceiling. I had no idea what I was going to do with my life. Like this book hit me. It's maybe my favorite book. I will say this. It is very lyrically, like beautifully written, but there's a lot of metaphors and it can be a little bit hard to understand if you if that type of writing is kind of hard for you, it's 100% a book that either you love it or you hate it. I just happen to really fucking love it. So go into it, you know, kind of like with those things in mind. It is such a beautiful story though. God, I love that. God, I want to reread This Is How You Lose the Time War. I love it so much. So much. I really recommend it. And somehow, despite what I just said about how it is one of my favorite books of all time that I've ever read, it is only number 2 on this list. My number 1 favorite book of the year is The Rise of Kyoshi by F.C. Yee. Speaking of books that live rent-free in my brain, I have parts of this book memorized. I don't think there's been a day since I read it when I don't think about this book in some way. As you know, I am an Avatar fan. If you don't know, Coeur is my favorite Avatar. That continues even after these books. Coeur is 100% my favorite. It's Coeur and then barely a margarine. It's Kyoshi, 100%. I adore this book. And it's so funny because this book, when you just watch Avatar, you think, oh, Avatar Kyoshi, she's a badass, she's a BAMF, she, you know, murder is okay, she will murder someone in an instant. You'd think that's the type of, and there are memes, there's so many memes and they're all so good. I really love those memes. But it's so amazing how this book both shows that that is not how she is, but it is also 100% how she is. I forgot to do a synopsis for this. Rise of Kyoshi is just it's the first of a duology, and it's about the early part of Kyoshi's avatarhood, basically how, you know, it was found out that she was Avatar, her growing to kind of like get used to being Avatar, and specifically her falling in love with her girlfriend Rangi, who I will get to 1 second. But this book made me love Kyoshi so much. And she's both what you expect and what you don't expect. She is very much a character that is just, she won't let things go, but she is so humble. The imposter syndrome that she goes through is so relatable. If you like Coeur, you will like Kyoshi, 100%. The similarities that I see between them is ridiculous. Like, they are, I mean, they're the same person. They're literally the same person. Like the Avatar, they're different lives. Like Coeur is Kyoshi, Kyoshi will be Coeur. Like, that's basically the thing about the Avatar. But Kyoshi is a less openly headstrong and cocky version of Coeur. Like, Kyoshi is season 4 Coeur. Kind of. You'll read it and you're like, that wasn't what I was expecting Kyoshi to be, but it is 100% what she should be. The way I love them. Along with that, once again, found family. Like, the Flying Opera Company is, let's give a shout out to my girl Karima, who I'm absolutely in love with. Like, ooh, damn, am I a lesbian? For Water Tribe girls specifically, probably, yeah. All of them, they're just all so good. But specifically, I need to talk about Kyoshi and Rangi. So as a character specifically, I absolutely adore Kyoshi. Her journey of like not thinking she is the Avatar to finding out she's the Avatar to feeling imposter syndrome, like she shouldn't be the Avatar, she doesn't deserve being the Avatar, to, you know, being fully realized and like kind of confident in her own thought, like avatarness, which doesn't happen until the end of the second book, is so good in of itself. But the romance between her and her girlfriend Rangi brings me to tears. I think about it constantly. I've made so many friends because of how obsessed we are with this romance. I literally picked up the book because I went on Twitter and someone was just like, hey, if you guys haven't read the Kyoshi novels, here's why you have to, because there is literally a scene where Kyoshi's girlfriend gets her into a training stance and then drapes her body all over her to see if she breaks concentration. And I was like, ain't no way that happens. Not only does that happen, it is not even the least spicy scene of them. Their relationship, if you've read it, you'll understand what I mean when I say the lake scene. lives rent-free in my brain. The first airbending scene lives rent-free in my brain. The reunion scene in book 2, rent-free in my brain. The way that their relationship has beachfront property with a view, no rent, no mortgage in my brain constantly. Kyoshi and Rangi are my favorite couple of this year. They're so good. They're so good. I know that it is my entire job to talk about why I love these books. I have no words that can explain exactly how much I love this book. I mean, it's number 1. But besides that, I cannot express to you enough how much I love this book. If you are an Avatar fan, especially if you are a fan of Korra, I highly, highly recommend reading this. The books, first of all, written absolutely gorgeous. FCE's writing somehow is so simple but so beautiful at the same time. Like, I desperately want to read his actual series because he has books outside of the Kyoshi novels to see if it continues there, and I have a feeling it will. He is an amazing writer and I absolutely love him. But in addition to that, he writes for the Avatar world in a way that you don't need to watch the show to understand. Like, you can very clearly understand what is going on outside of that. And then, but he also will pull in small bits of detail that like expand on the world so much. Like, he talks about the Southern Water Tribe and why it is so much less advanced than the Northern Water Tribe in a way that makes what happens to like in Atla and Legend of Korra make even more sense now, because it's like, oh, I understand how we got to that point. And this book is also the book, like, it sets up, because the thing about Avatar, the universe, is that every avatar causes consequences for the next avatar. Like, for example, Roku not killing Sozin caused Aang's conflict, which in turn caused Korra's conflict, yada yada yada. This book goes so far into talking about consequences of the different avatars. I love it so much. Anyways, I need to stop talking. Because it's just gonna turn into me babbling about how much I absolutely love Kyoshi. Anyways, Rise of Kyoshi is the best book that I've read this year. I'm also counting, like, Shadow of Kyoshi wasn't on this list because I didn't want to take 2 spots for the Kyoshi novels. So just take that into, like, together. They're my favorite. But I do like Rise of Kyoshi more than I like Shadows of Kyoshi. Anyways, and with that, that's the end of my 10 favorite books of the year. Fanfiction of the week is The Rise of Rangi by D7 Kyoshi. It is a retelling of the Rise of Kyoshi from Rangi's point of view, and it's really good. Highly recommend it, especially if you read the Kyoshi novels and are absolutely in love with Rangi, which I am. Excuse me, sir, that is my emotional support, hot-headed lesbian. Please let me love her. As always, I hope that you guys had a great time with me today. There are links down below to where you can do things like register to vote, check out links to different types of social movements that are going on right now, make yourself be heard, and find ways to make the world a better place. I hope that you guys have a great rest of your day. Bye!
They don't wanna talk, they don't wanna feel the voice in my head saying I don't think I'm. They don't wanna talk, they don't wanna feel the voice in my head saying I don't think I'm real, 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 I don't think I'm. I don't know where my head's been at.